It is the most exclusive island on the Adriatic, one of the 10 most beautiful islands in the world according to Condé Nast, the birthplace of organized tourism in all of Europe back in 1868, home to the oldest public theatre in Europe, dating back to 1612. No island in the world has more UNESCO heritage than the six heritages. As indigenous grape varieties, its Mediterranean diet is protected by UNESCO, some of the best beaches in Europe, and a very, very vibrant nightlife. This is the island of Hvar, which is one of the most elite places in Croatia for tourism. And it's also known as the Croatian Ibiza, the big party island. And I've been living on this island for 13 years. I've been following it professionally with writing about tourism for 15 years. And I've watched Hvar Town more than any other destination. And it's an incredible place which was once so egalitarian. It had something for everyone: culture, gastronomy, nature, activities, nightlife, beaches. And then something changed. In 2000, a exclusive nightclub called Carpe Diem opened, and they did an exceptional job at promoting the island and the brand Carpe Diem themselves. It was a very, very exclusive club where you had A-list celebrities such as Kevin Spacey, I remember, for example, would come here, and it was very, very upscale. And then they had another Carpe Diem beach, which was a facility on one of the small islands opposite Hvar Town. And it was really known as one of the top places to come for nightlife and for quality service back in the day. And then something changed both with Carpe Diem and also with the destination. There was a lurch towards party tourism, and Carpe Diem itself went to be a little bit less exclusive. And the destination in 2007 had 0 hostels. 5 years later, there were 29, just to give you an example of how the profile changed. And regarding Carpe Diem, it went from being this very, very exclusive thing to pretty much they would accept everybody. To such an extent that last year, for example, you would have a lot of people coming from Split, young people, bringing alcohol they bought in the supermarket in Split to drink, and then to go to the club on the beach, Carpe Diem Beach, to drink and party all night, and then to come back into Hvar and wait the first catamaran at 6:30. And a lot of them fell asleep, they were vomiting. It was really not a pretty sight, and there was a lot of drunkenness and loud noise, and it was, although the money was coming in, it was really, really detrimental to the destination. And this also got into the media, and the idea of this exclusive, all-inclusive destination was at risk. And then last year, in the middle of August, something drastic changed. There was a physical altercation between one of the owners of Carpe Diem and one of the leading restaurants on the island, which was filmed and got into the national media. The inspectors came the next day, and they found irregularities in the Carpe Diem Beach's paperwork, and they shut down the whole facility overnight. And then they also imposed a national law which is in existence all over Croatia but has never been implemented anywhere else, and that is that without special permits for events and so on, the maximum sound level you can have in a bar, cafe, is 65 decibels, which is almost nothing. And this is a national law. This applies to Split, Dubrovnik, Zagreb, Pula, Rovinj, wherever. And the inspectors came and they made sure that all of the bars in Hvar went down to 65 decibels. And so overnight, the Croatian Ibiza, which Hvar never was, but that was the reputation, went to being quite a silent destination. I remember I was on a cruise in September, 2 weeks after this happened, and I was shocked at just how quiet it was, but it was also beautiful. I was walking along the river, and my fellow cruisers who had never been to Croatia before, they said that Hvar was actually the absolute highlight. It was a magical place, beautifully atmospheric, but it was very quiet. There was a lot of debate over the winter what's going to happen. Season 2025 has been quite difficult for Croatia in general, and the 65 decibel rule has remained. Carpe Diem Beach, they're available, but only under the 65 decibel rule. So the whole idea of late night party stuff has gone for now, perhaps forever. And as a result, a lot less people are coming for the party to get drunk themselves. People are saying it's great. People are saying this is no longer the vibe of the party. And so I come to have a look at this destination, which I've been following for 15 years, just to see what is the reality of Hvar Town in 2025 without the party, and with a 65 decibel limit. What's good, what's bad, what's changing. So I came after traveling 17 hours. I went from Lochin to Zagreb, dropped my daughter off. I came now from Zagreb to Split. I took a ferry. I went to see a friend in Križna Luka, which is a part of Hvar Town, just outside the center. And I finally walked towards my hotel at 2:30 in the morning. Now, 2:30 in the morning last year, last 5-10 years, you would see bodies, drunken people, people screaming, people fornicating, people vomiting, people already asleep. It was really not a pretty sight. And I walked along the exclusive river, and all I saw were people sitting, chatting, having fun. I didn't see anybody totally drunk for the whole weekend. And I was here for 3 nights. I then went to bed, and I got up at 5:30 in the morning to film what they call the zombie line. So basically what would happen is these people would come from Splits with their supermarket booze, which they bought in Split. They would come to Bar, they would go to Carpe Diem beach, they would come back, and then they would wait for the first ferry to go back to Split. They brought nothing to Bar in terms of tourism apart from problems. And they would be lying there fast asleep. So early risers will be stepping over bodies, and it was quite an intimidating atmosphere for the family, surely. And so I came and I looked, and I went for the zombie line to see what it was like in the new era. And all I saw were people out early morning walking, jogging, having coffee, walking dogs. Everything was absolute spotless. The authorities have made sure everything's really clean. It felt like the elite destination that I'd once known it was before the party took over. And I went then, walking around. I've had a really, really, really amazing weekend in this destination that has changed so much over the years. 3 fantastic breakfasts, for example. The Hotel Sunchenicar, they do a really, really excellent job. Hotel Adriana, I've always said, is the best breakfast on the Adriatic, both in terms of the quality of the offer, but also the location. And you can sit here and have breakfast till 11 o'clock and just slow watch life on the harbour, the people watching. It's amazing. Come to Riva Marina if you want a full English breakfast with the Bloody Mary. And then, of course, you've got Palace Elizabeth, which was breakfast this morning. The only breakfast in the whole of Croatia where they have live piano music. So really, really, really excellent choices. But walking around and talking to people, I spoke to somebody from the Port Authority, and I said, "So how is it? Is everything terrible now?" And he said, "There's no drunkenness anymore. At night we can sleep, and as people, as local residents, we are a lot happier. The people who run the booze bars, everything else, obviously they're complaining. But as a destination, it really, really has improved. And it's not perfect, but they were definitely on the right way." And the more I talked to people and the more I looked around, the more I realized that the best analogy I can give for Hvar Town today is my relationship with alcohol. So it's not a secret I'm an alcoholic, quite a good functioning one, but an alcoholic. And sometimes I go for detox. And on the first day, I crave my addiction. I crave the alcohol that. On the second day, I also crave it, but a little bit less. And I see the benefits of not drinking so much. And on the third day, I feel great. And I wonder, why is it I have this need for alcohol? And to me, this is a really good analogy for today's Hvar Town. The first day, day 1 of the detox, was August last year, when everything was stopped, the party was stopped, and everybody was craving the addiction of money. The second day was 2025, this season, where people still craving the addiction of money, party, everything else, but seeing that actually without that, the quality of life of locals is much, much better. And the third day of the addiction is season 2026, where this addiction is more or less in check. And now we're looking at the long-term health of the person, of the destination. Of course, as an alcoholic who doesn't drink, I feel I'm quite boring. I don't have a drink in my hands. And same way with a destination, without live music and so on, it can be quite boring. But in the same way that if I can have a social drink, then the destination can have life and nightlife without it having to dominate everything. And the atmosphere around town is, to me, as a 56-year-old, I realize a lot of younger people is really, really pleasant. I've had the nicest peak season visitor ever by a long and long way. I didn't see a single drunk person, which is really unheard of. But I would say that the destination now has some really interesting choices to make. The framework is that it's a great destination, and all the things of culture and gastronomy and stuff that we were talking about before is all there. The noise levels are low, but this, again, I stress, is a national decision. It's a national law. And so every bar in Split should be no more than 65 decibel. It's only been enforced in Hvar this year because, according to sources I have, official statistics are that 60% of all complaints about noise pollution this year have been about Hvar Town. And to me, I really don't believe, however loud Hvar Town was, I don't believe that in other destinations, I've been to them, there's exactly the same amount of noise, but only 60% of people in Hvar Town, which seems to me that somebody is on a mission to disrupt the sound care. And there have been so many inspections at Hvar Town this year, and there was one cafe that was 67 decibels, 2 decibels over, and its music was shut down, which is clearly ridiculous. I went for a walk in nature. As you can see, the cicadas. The cicadas were over the 65 decibel, and it's sort of, what are we going to do with that? And so the decision now, I think, or the challenge now is that we've got everything back to how things used to be. We've got everything back now to a really good basis, and we need to now look at nightlife, because Hvar needs a nightlife, of course it does. And it still has 3 nightclubs, 2 in town and 1 up on the hill, so it's not as though there is no nightlife, but that's all inside now. But it still needs a really good solution for nightlife, but perhaps away from the town and away from all the residents. It also needs a bit more life. You know, there used to be a lot more things happening on the street. But those are things that I think, if the destination comes together as principal players, then this really has the potential to be returned to the elite destination that it once was. And it's not cheap, but then it shouldn't be cheap. It is the most exclusive destination on the Adriatic Islands. What will happen next year on day 3 as detox? In my wishes, this winter, all the authorities will come together, the nightclubs, the hotels, the tourist board, town, industry players, and they will all come together and agree a common strategy that makes sense, that can take this destination forward. My fear is that there was a lot of greed involved here, and that greed necessarily means that people are in it for themselves, and they all have the individual or the vision of what's going to happen. So I think Hvar Town's at a crossroads. I think it's in a fantastic position finally, where it's getting rid of all this party tourism image, all these people just coming for the booze and the party, which really add nothing to the destination apart from to push families and all the people away that were big spenders. The trends also are changing. American tourists coming to Hvar are really, it's up again and again and again, year on year. The hotels are having, again, a good season. And if we can now manage this properly and put a bit more life and a bit more nightlife and control it, I think Hvar Town will be one of the meccas of luxury tourism as it once was before. And personally, I'm very excited to see what's going to happen in the next 12 months. I've had a fantastic stay, the best I've had. And just walking around this town, you could talk to locals and everybody agrees they are sleeping better, the quality of life is better. And now it's just up to the tourism authorities to make the right decisions to keep that as the baseline and to add the quality to make this the quality destination that it always has been. Good luck.